Time now for Fantasy Football Today for CBS Local Sports. I'm Jamey Eisenberg. That's Dave Richard. That's Heath Cummings. We're giving you starts and sits for week number 6 to help you dominate your leagues. Let's start at the quarterback position. One guy coming off his bye is Matthew Stafford.
Kind of a curveball here because Matthew Stafford, not a slam dunk starter across the board for us, but I'll tell you what, the last 2 weeks, the Packers' pass defense has allowed at least 25 fantasy points to each of the 2 quarterbacks they face. It's a big change after they shut down Mitchell Trubisky, Kirk Cousins, and Joe Flacco to open the season. Stafford has multiple touchdowns in 3 of 4 games, should be all 4 of his games. A couple of them were called back, and he's scored at least 2 touchdowns in 9 straight games against the Green Bay Packers, 250-plus yards in 5 of his last 6. He's in my top 12.
His last 7 games coming off of a bye week, he's averaging 19 fantasy points, but in 4 of those, he's been over 20 fantasy points. So hopefully he keeps it going off of his bye. Quarterback that we're sitting is usually pretty successful. Not so much this week.
I do not like Carson Wentz on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. We thought the Packers' pass defense was really good a couple weeks ago, and now we found out maybe they're not so much. I'm pretty sure this Vikings defense at home is good. Now, we've seen Wentz against a good defense, and the Bears had a good day, but it was because of 3 touchdowns, less than 200 yards passing. I think it'll be that type of day. I would not expect the 3 touchdowns to happen again. This will be a low-scoring, grinded-out type of game. I don't want any part of Wentz.
Going to be tough to trust them again against that tough Minnesota defense. The running back that we're starting this week, dealing with some injuries around him. You still like Tevin Coleman, though?
I still like Tevin Coleman. This team was averaging 5.5 yards per carry. Take 20% of that away. Let's say the blocking's not good enough. They're only going to average 4.5. He'll be fine. Love the fact that he got more work than Matt Breida in his very first game back, at least in the running game. And I would anticipate that Kyle Juszczyk being gone hurts them in terms of a rushing production, but it helps them in terms of passing because he had more targets in the passing game than any of the running backs. So I would a little boost there for Coleman as well. I think he'll be just fine. This Rams defense doesn't mind if you run on them.
Hopefully those tackles hold up, though, because 2 rookie tackles with a combined 2 starts so far on the season. We'll see how they do against that Rams defense. Running back that we're sitting is coming off a monster game in Phillip Lindsay, huh?
And he's had 4 games this season with at least 15-plus touches, but he's only delivered over 100 total yards in 2 of those games. He's taken on a Titans defense that's better against the run than their numbers say. It's really blown up by 2 long runs that they gave up earlier in the season. There are 0 running backs this year that have gone 10-plus non-PPR fantasy points against this unit, and only 1 running back has had 15 or more PPR points. I don't think Phillip Lindsay, who's splitting time about 50-50 with Royce Freeman, is going to be the next one to do it against the Titans.
See how Lindsay does coming off that dominant performance against the Chargers. Wide receivers that we're looking at here, starting a guy who is finally starting to get some attention from his quarterback.
And he's been the most efficient receiver in Carolina over the last 3 games. He's had 5 fewer targets than Curtis Samuel. He has 83 more yards despite that. And this Tampa Bay secondary is a mess, Jamie. They're allowing about a 70% catch rate, 5 touchdowns, 4 100-yard games to receivers. I think DJ Moore gets some good volume and does some good things for fantasy managers.
Not a lot of brotherly love from Heath Cummings when it comes to the Eagles this week.
Alshon Jeffrey scares me for the same reason that Carson Wentz does. Listen, Alshon has had pretty good production so far this year. He's been more efficient than I anticipated, but Zach Ertz is going to lead the team in targets. He'll be second at best. And again, I don't think the Eagles get a ton of plays like they normally do. I don't think they score a ton of touchdowns. He needs a touchdown to be good in fantasy.
Going now to the tight end position, and a guy that has been struggling a little bit, but gets to face a team that he once upon a time beat up, even this season in week 2. Greg Olson is a starter.
You got to like his chances to come through with a touchdown in a nice game here against Tampa Bay. Just as bad as the Bucs are against wide receivers, they are against tight ends. Look for him to find the end zone. And it's hard to find a reliable tight end these days in fantasy. I think Greg Olson can get the job done for fantasy managers this week.
Tampa Bay allowing the 2nd most fantasy points to tight ends behind only the free space of the Arizona Cardinals. Jason Witten, not feeling it this week, huh?
I would prefer not to start. Listen, tight end is terrible. I don't think there's any difference, though, really, between Jason Witten and the next 15 guys. So I'm not starting him over I wouldn't start him over Delanie Walker this week.
Interesting. No love for Jason Witten, despite the tight end position being as bad as this. So this is the starts that we're looking at here for week number 6. Matthew Stafford, Tevin Coleman, DJ Moore, and Greg Olson. Guys that were sitting are Carson Wentz, Phillip Lindsay, Alshon Jeffrey, Jason Witten. These have been your starts and your sits for week number 6 for CBS Local Sports.